I would request that you give some consideration to a sequel, and the sequel be the other side, because it seems to me that this is lambasting, uh, in my case, the victims, rather than the perpetrators. And I realize I'm to the right of you, there's no question of that, but there has to be a lot said that peace is not there because of the other side. And the movie does not state that.
Well, I think that there is something. Look, definitely a movie comes from a point of view of there's a creator behind it, and there's a point of view of the creator. I tried very much to stay to the message that they kind of convey to me, and not to put my point of view on that. But look, at the end of the day, you are absolutely right. There is two parties to this tango, and the blame on the Palestinian side is, and definitely on Arafat, is big, on why we don't have peace now. But the gatekeepers and the six heads of Shin Bet forces us, I'm talking about the Israelis, to look upon themselves where did we did the mistakes. And believe me, the most harsh evidence for me as the filmmaker was the amount of time that the Israeli governments and the Israeli prime minister could have led this region to another political reality, and because of their short-sighted, because of the lack of their initiative, nothing has happened. And believe me, by having said that, I understand that you want the Palestinians to have a gatekeepers of their own. Bear in mind that they are still a nation under struggle to reach independence. You cannot judge them in the same tools that we judge the Israelis.
I do want to add, and of course, no film needs to be completely objective and show all sides, and would be impossible, actually. One of the things that I like about this episode is actually the footage that you choose. I think you show killing, unfortunately, these horrible, horrible shots, but of both sides, that both sides are victims here.
Exactly. The targeted assassination, I tried to connect them to the context here much more in the film, where you see those horrible, horrible period of suicide attacks, where I was, as an Israeli, I was afraid to go out in the streets of Tel Aviv to walk with my two young kids then, because I was afraid that there will be suicide attack. Every 2 days there is a suicide attack, and you cannot really think or act when you are under that pressure. But the job of the leaders is to think 7 steps ahead and to say, where do I want to see? Do I want to continue that? Do I want my kids and my grandchildren to continue to live in that kind of atmosphere? I don't think that this is what I want, and definitely that's what is something that I don't want for my kids to have.
We have time for one last question over here.
You talked about the messenger and the message. If you would give the message, what would be your message in the overall? And also, looking beyond that, what do you think is a possible solution? What did you learn from these people as the way to the future?
The first question is very easily answered. I think that the film says exactly what I think. Two-state solution, this is the only solution for Israel to maintain being a Jewish Israeli democratic state. And this is something that is very important to me, to maintain a Jewish Israeli democratic state. And the second question is much more harder to answer. I'm not optimistic. I don't think that there is a solution now. Although the heads of Shin Bet are trying all the time to cheer me up, to be more optimistic, and they think that, I think, you know, there is something when you are a pilot, there is a point where you say this is the point of no return. That means you finished almost half your gasoline, and if you go beyond that, you cannot go back to where you, and I think that Israel have moved beyond that point of no return. I don't think that there is, and I don't see any leader that could bear on his shoulder what needs to be done in order to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, specifically on the Israeli side. What you saw there, what happened during the disengagement plan, was, bear in mind that this was Gaza, which almost 90% of the Israelis consider as a pimple. Nobody wanted Gaza. And this, what you saw there, was under disengagement from Gaza. In order to create a viable two-state solution, you need to evacuate settlers and settlements, which are at the heart of Judea and Samaria, the heart of what we call the Jewish tradition and the Jewish land. And this is almost impossible. Definitely not Benjamin Netanyahu. You know, he says that he is for a two-state solution. I don't believe him. I think that the majority of Israelis do not believe him. And what I'm afraid now, and I said that to Martin Indyk and to Kerry and to when I met them, is that the overzealous of the American administration to put those two parties now on speaking reminds me of what happened prior to October 2000 when there was the peace talks in Camp David, and which resulted at the end of that, because it was not prepared well, resulted in the second intifada, the complete crush of the peace movement inside Israel, and the rise of the extreme right and the right wing in Israel. The consequences of the collapse, which will happen, this is what I foresee, in 5 months, 6 months from now of those peace talks, because nothing is, from what I hear from inside, nothing is moved. The consequences of that can be dire to the whole region, definitely to the Israelis and the Palestinians, and to the whole region. I'm sorry that I'm not optimistic, but this is how I see the result of what's going to happen.
Folks, I'm sorry. We believe me, this conversation can go on for a while.